My father at the time, this was be my brother's biological father, had become violent. And so I remember the first time I saw my mom get hit, and it was like my whole world shattered. I didn't know or understand why anyone would want to hurt something so beautiful or someone so beautiful. It really confused me from day one. I watched my mother struggle hard with the two boys and being in a relationship that was becoming more and more abusive. She again was like the matriarch of the family with the siblings and stuff like that, and everybody was striving to be sort of like this outspoken hippie that my mother was, and actually sort of like they were chasing after her dysfunction in a lot of ways. My aunt, who was younger than my mom, she ended up graduating high school pregnant, and she was following in my mother's footsteps. Really looked up to her, and so as time went on, and my mother ended up having, we went through a divorce, or she, excuse me, well, I guess we all did go through the divorce, but it was from an abusive relationship. I watched him throw her down the stairs. I watched my mom go toe to toe with guys over the years, and you just wish that she hoped that she didn't throw the first punch, because she'd come out fighting like a man, and well, the men weren't gonna, they weren't gonna take that, so they would really throw down, and you really watched, some pretty horrible scenes. We lived in pretty extreme poverty. My mom, so we were on a lot of welfare and stuff like that. And then she got with another guy, and we lived in a wealthy town, but we lived in a very poor, sort of ramshackle, kind of put together hippie house. No running water, no real heat. We had a coal stove and things like that. And she signed herself up for college, And I remember going to this ice cream place. It was sort of a visitation day with the dad, and I remember him first threatening her life, because she was asking for child support, and he said to her, if you want to die, you'll ask for child support. And then she said she was going to go to school, go to college, and he just laughed in her face and just told her what an idiot she was, and how she could never make it, And it was always so crushing. But by then it was like so I ended up being diagnosed with PTSD, right, from my childhood. But by then, so there's fight, flight, and then there's freeze. And so I have freeze. And so my adrenaline will get so high that I can't move. And I remember that in that ice cream shop, when he threatened her and then told her that she was I remember freezing for the first time, My mother did end up going to college, and she went to the University of Massachusetts. And then she had another boyfriend who, his nickname was Cloud, this guy, and he was a deadhead back then, and he was a Vietnam vet, and he sold weed by the scoops, like an ice cream scoop in a big bag, and my mother was doing a lot of drugs too. And that was when I was getting really, really picked on at school. We were poor, living in a rich New England town. And then I became a latchkey kid fully, and there was nobody home he'd come home from school, and I would do my paper route, and she just wasn't around. My brother was being dropped off at daycare. But the times that we got to go to the college with her, and I remember being so proud that my mother was in these college classes, and I sat through a psychology class with her, and I used to go to the University of Massachusetts, and I'd play pinball, and I'd get quarters from people, and just kind of hang around the school, doing, the way that it was, like I could do whatever I did. I just did my own thing. And but I remember being proud. I remember going to school and talking about my mom being a college student, and she was going to college. But then, after school, and I was getting picked on quite a bit, and coming home, and the house would be empty, cold, and sometimes without any power, and I would just be there and do my paper route and come back. But every time that I was collection day on my paper route, I always stopped at this little farm stand, and I'd grab my mother a bunch of flowers, and I'd bring her flowers every time I collected. And there were times actually where I'd run into guys that maybe we knew or that my mom had dated. So when she was single, when that boyfriend left, I'd actually bring guys home and things like that. Just I don't know why. I just didn't want her to be alone, I guess, you know. And she was working hard, but she also had really high anxiety, and she had really she had anger issues, and she would unload on me and my brother quite a bit. And she was always, you know, yelling about things and dropping us off places. We spent a lot of times with our grandmothers, but man, the love that I had for her was just, I just couldn't. There was no two ways about it of who my mother was, you know.